It seems Democrats have a fighting chance to maintain control of the Senate. Fueling that is a battle in Pennsylvania. Lieutenant Governor and Democratic candidate John Fetterman appears to be breaking away from Republican candidate Dr. Mehmet Oz in some polling. So, Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, is here joining us in Studio 57 to talk a little bit more about these numbers. Yeah, Mehmet Oz has had kind of like a bit of a rough week with his campaign. That video of him in a grocery store fell flat.
Yep.
The coup d'etat.
Even Tucker Carlson is laughing at him over that, which is not a good thing because he does hold sway with the people that would. He's endorsed by President Trump. Yeah. Former President Trump. So.
All right. So Mitch McConnell recently said that he felt like the Senate could actually go either way. Sort of surprising to come from him. He said that the quality of candidates will be an important factor.
I love that he said that, Anne-Marie. The quality of candidates. I mean, we're talking about Herschel Walker, who's been caught up in a variety of controversies. You mentioned Dr. Oz. And even in Arizona, there are people who are looking at Arizona and saying, you know what, Senator Mark Kelly has a good chance of keeping that seat.
Because you know what we've seen in previous elections, like smaller elections, where we had kind of like people who were unexpectedly running and were kind of really sort of on the fringes, maybe even QAnon types, is even though they get a lot of attention, they don't win. They hadn't won. We don't know what's going to happen now, but I think that he's reading the tea leaves in that way.
Lowering expectations.
Yeah, why is he lowering expectations in that way or managing them?
Well, look, he's been through the Tea Party era, right? And those of us who've been watching this recall that the Republicans feel like they dropped a couple of potential wins. Places like Indiana and Missouri going back, if people have been following this for years, by recruiting and having candidates win that weren't acceptable to a wider electorate, right? Now, we don't know yet that that's what's happening here, and it's August. And that's sort of the first thing I want to remind everybody. Yes, you can look at the calendar, see the same thing, but it's August. Having said that, what we're going through right now is a primary season in which the Republican base, and very specifically the most enthusiastic Trump supporters, are really holding sway. So you're seeing candidates come out of that process where you have to ask yourself, do they appeal to a wider electorate? There is some public polling that suggests not so much right now. But having said that, again, it's August. Let me break down where we are just to sort of set the table for everybody. 50-50 Senate, okay? Here's what's up. And this is the Republicans and the Democrats, the seats that they're defending. If you dive deeper into this, because you say, okay, well, wait, Republicans are defending more seats, what you see is that a lot of the seats they're defending are in solidly Republican states. Okay, so they're probably off the table. Now, speaking of, back in the day, a generation ago, you would not have necessarily seen this pattern. You would not have seen that straight correlation between a very Republican presidential seat and necessarily voting for a Republican senator and vice versa on the Democratic side, right? But this is what you see today in their hyperpolarized environment. Well, now let's look at the states that are really going to decide this. And that is, you mentioned Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada in our estimations. These are places that we're going to watch all through this season. You start with the Pennsylvania race, Fetterman, Oz. Fetterman has had a lead in public polling. But again, what it means to be up in the polls right now, very frankly, is just voter preference. Because it's not until you get into September and October that people start to have a better sense of whether they're really going to show up. And even then, you can get a couple of weeks out. And the polls can have, Democrats saying, we've seen this movie before, Democrats saying, yeah, we're going to vote, yeah, we prefer. But then Republicans come out stronger on Election Day. So I sort of want to set the table with that for everybody because it's, it's a long way off.
So let's talk about the issues that people are considering. We know the economy, abortion rights, gun reform have all been in the headlines this year. What issues are motivating the voters the most right now ahead of the midterms?
One thing I want to show you here, because it goes to this idea of turnout and what has to happen between now and November. Look at Democratic voters and what happens among the bulk of them who do approve of Biden. They're more enthusiastic about voting. But the fewer who haven't approved of Joe Biden are less likely to say they're very enthusiastic about voting. Now, can this be changing? We're getting numbers now that say inflation may be slowing down. We've got a couple of big piece of legislation that the president has just passed. Does this change among the Democratic base? I think becomes an essential question as we go forward. The other part of this that I want to show you is what exactly is the importance of, let's say, a Trump endorsement. We know it's important in the primaries, right? But we also want to see what is it about enthusiasm and what is it about the voting that goes on when we look at Republicans too. And let me see, where are we here with the estimated electorate? There we go. I'm going to hit this. Watch this. If your vote for Congress is based a lot on Donald Trump, those people break towards the Democrats.
That's interesting.
And this, right now, it's not true for Republicans. They're voting for Republicans and they like Donald Trump. But it's this break that maybe some in the Democratic Party are looking at and going, well, hold on a second. Does Trump become a centerpiece of this campaign?
But it's funny, I would have thought that because we've seen, for example, let's just use Liz Cheney, that if you are not supporting Donald Trump, if you're a Republican, you're not voting for a candidate who former President Trump has not endorsed or who former President Trump is against. So I would have thought that the number, in other words, if they're basing their vote on what is Trump like, that's who I'm going with. But Republicans, it doesn't seem to be as high as Democrats, which to me signals that they're voting against Donald Trump.
Right. In fact, Donald Trump has been more of a factor in people in voting for Democrats, among Democrats, than Biden is. But look, again, Republicans are motivated by this. But the question, back to the top of our discussion, which is what becomes the central part of this race, and does the primaries have an impact on the general, is if Trump becomes a centerpiece of this race, does that help Republicans with a wider electorate? And that's
I find
that's
that
the
slide
key
that
thing.
you showed us about enthusiasm, if you are enthusiastic about Biden and the things that he's accomplished, that means you're going to vote for a Democrat. But if you're unenthusiastic about Biden, you're 30%. The number was fairly low, Anthony, that showed very enthusiastic about voting. I find that remarkable because as the legendary Tip O'Neill, who was Speaker of the House in the 70s and 80s, said, all politics is local. So it doesn't matter what the president is doing. It matters what's happening in your district, in your neighborhood.
You know what? But things have shifted, I think, Anthony, in terms of the way people feel about national politics. That people are not paying attention as much to local politics. Local news is not covering local politics the way they used to. Everything has become nationalized.
Yep, that is correct. Now, to some extent, the Senate changes from that pattern a little bit, right? Because, and back to the idea of candidates matter, in a Senate race, you get to know the candidates a little more. But for the House, you see really strong straight ticket voting. You see really strong, it used to be, go back to the 80s and 90s, used to be you would see a quarter of voters switch from Democrat to Republican or vice versa in their House vote. Now that number is well below 10%. It's like all solid.
So fascinating.
To the point of nationalization.
Wow. Anthony Salvanto, I'm always smarter after you come on our air.
It's true.
Thank you very much.
I've enjoyed the discussion, guys. Thank you.